The Ford Mustang Mach-E was one of the first real competitors to come for Tesla's Model Y throne. In a lot of ways, it's higher caliber, it's lower cost, and it's got lots of room to utilize with lots of tech inside, and is made by Ford, a company that has been in this business since, well, basically since the business started. But many were worried that the Mustang reputation was going to sort of be muddied with Ford jumping in and using it sort of for their new electric frontier. But after a couple of years, it's safe to say the Mach-E has certainly held its own and really propelled so the Mustang branding into the more modern electric vehicle era. But the fate of this vehicle is still very much in limbo right now. But let me break down everything you need to know about the Mach-E heading into 2026. Let's crunch the currents with Recurrent. Let's take a look at the data and see why the Mach-E is so well loved and why this might be the EV you've long been waiting for, and why now might be the perfect time to buy. The outside has got a pretty sleek and stylish design that in many ways is classic Mustang and classic Ford, while the inside is a bit more modern and dominated by kind of the elephant in the room, which is that large vertical touchscreen I will come back to more in a moment. Believe me, a lot to say on that, but first, let me sort of break down the lineup and kind of tell you where the Mach-E stands right now. As of the fall of 2025, the Mach-E is available in a number of different configurations, ranging from $38,000-ish to $58,000-ish, and I know the loss of federal incentives and the tax credit is still fresh on everybody's mind, but for better or worse, the Mach-E, by and large, really never qualified for most of those tax credits because of where those batteries were mainly sourced, so pricing here really hasn't changed all that much on the MSRP level. Now, there still are some state and local incentives, some Ford dealers are running special promos and things like that, so check with your local dealer on what the pricing is going to be these days, but by and large, that's kind of a broad overview of where pricing stands. Range and features, of course, are going to vary based off the configuration you go with, but generally speaking, you're looking at 240 miles on the low end to about 320 miles on the high end. And if we start to look at the Recurrent data and see what the fleet data has to show us, we actually can learn a lot about how the Mach-E kind of performs in the real world. A typical range driver's experience was notably less than what Ford was advertising, and charging speeds were also going to be slower than the competition in comparable EVs. It's hard to obviously not put this side by side with Tesla's Model Y, which is very similar in many different ways, but again, despite some of the maybe disappointing things with the data, the Mach-E still has a lot going for it that in a lot of ways will be better and what more people like than kind of what Tesla's doing with the Model Y. For example, the Mach-E has got a much more conventional and traditional design that a lot of people are going to appreciate. Both the outside and the inside, they're a little bit more modern, but definitely much more traditional, which a lot of people will appreciate. And also because there is an official NACS adapter and support here, you can use a Mach-E at a number of Tesla superchargers. So not only are there a number of third-party charging stations, but you can take advantage of the Tesla network in many areas as well. So you kind of are, in a sense, getting the best of both worlds. Okay, so after spending some time behind the wheel of this Ford Mustang Mach-E, I've got some thoughts. The first being that while the vertical display, in my opinion, is very weird and very quirky and not as usable as a widescreen display would normally be in cars, it is still nice to have, especially since you've got Android Auto and CarPlay support, because I wasn't super impressed by the built-in Ford software, just not a whole lot here going on, though you are quickly going to be able to sort of just bypass that and then live in your smartphone companion software of choice, which is nice. Also, the lack of physical buttons, very Tesla-esque, with the one big exception literally being that giant knob here on the bottom of the display that is always there. Now, this can be a knob used for volume control. It can also be used for adjusting the internal temperature of the climate inside the vehicle, and it has just a very protruding design and a very clicky, tactile nature, both in terms of how it feels and how it sounds. And while I didn't find that little slim driver's display all that useful, not exactly sure why that's there. Also, I don't understand why so many EV automakers continue to have a physical button for turning the vehicle on and off. They really don't need that. It was actually, I was surprised to have a pretty good experience with the Mach-E. The drive was very comfortable, suspension was very smooth, the cabin was quiet and spacious. In fact, I was surprised with the back of the vehicle from the outside looking in and from the camera's view, doesn't actually look like it's all that much, back there to enjoy. And while the sparseness is there for your passengers, there isn't a screen, you do have a couple of ports there for plugging things in and some vents, it was actually pretty spacious, especially with the headroom. I am about 6 feet tall on a good day, and I had plenty of space in there, and you've got that giant panoramic piece of glass up there that makes the whole inside of the vehicle feel much more spacious than it probably actually is. You've got plenty of storage space here in the trunk for hauling things, and again, another weird quirky feature, kind of like Tesla is weird with their doors, the Mach-E is weird with its doors as well. You don't have traditional handles, but you have a little button you press, and then the doors open up that way. Again, not exactly sure why Ford went this way, like the vertical screen, but after a while, you do kind of get used to it. All right, so I've shown you the inside and outside. We've talked about range, specs, the good and the bad. Now let's talk about who the Mach-E is actually for. Well, if you're looking for an all-electric SUV crossover type vehicle, one that isn't as minimal or maybe as restricting as the Tesla might be, this actually is a contender that is a pretty good way to go. Also, if you're someone who's just not super comfortable with some of these upstart companies like Tesla and Lucid and Rivian and others, Ford is obviously a company that you can trust. There is some recourse there. They've got an extensive service network and sales network, and there is something about that kind of more traditional automotive experience that I know some of you guys will appreciate. Though again, that also comes with dealer markups and MSRPs and haggling and things like that. But for some, maybe that's a pro rather than a con. If you like to spend your time that way, that at least is something to consider with the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Also, starting at sub $40,000-ish, the Mach-E's also got a lot going for it, especially when you compare it to other vehicles around that sort of price and class range. All in all, though, if you're looking for a well-rounded SUV, one that is going to offer a quiet, comfortable ride, plenty of space, full-on CarPlay or Android Auto support, and just a generally well-rounded experience with the reputation of a large company to back it up, the Mustang Mach-E is definitely worth your time and consideration. And while it doesn't have the most impressive specs of vehicles that we've seen in the recurrent fleet, Ford definitely has stuck with this Mach-E for many years, and it continues to sort of make updates to it and bring new features over time, though with a lot of the sort of talk about the Lightning's future kind of being a little bit in limbo with what Ford might or might not do, the Mach-E seems a bit more tried and true, and definitely seems like it has a bit more of a following and a customer base than an all-electric pickup truck. So I think that if you're looking at a Mustang Mach-E into the 2026 new year, it definitely is worth your consideration and certainly worth a test drive. Of course, if you'd like to learn more about the Ford Mustang Mach-E and all the different EVs in the landscape as we head into the new year, you can check out all recurrence data at the links down below. And also, we have tested all of the other big EVs you're probably looking at. If you're looking to buy a new EV, we've looked at offerings from Chevy, Nissan, Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, and more. You can check those videos out at the link down below as well if you'd like to sort of see how the Mustang Mach-E stacks up to the competition. Appreciate you as always as watching, folks. I'm Robert Rosenfeld, and this is Recurrent Auto.